All right. Hello, everybody in the Beyond Endo community and followers of Dr. Soni. This is April Summerford, Women's Health and Leadership Coach. And for those of you who know me, hello. And if you don't know me, I'm looking forward to meeting you and hopefully engaging with you in our Beyond Endo community. And this is Dr. Soni. She's with us again to spread some light and wisdom on all of our home detox needs. We did a poll in the community and you said this was your number 2 most important topic. So we're going to address some of your home detox concerns today and go over how to detox your home.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I went to a couple environmental conferences last year, so I attribute those to a lot of the content. And yeah, let's get started.
Yeah, we're gonna make this super practical. We're gonna try our best to like dive deep into how to detox each room in your house. And so I'm gonna let you start it off, Dr. Soni.
So spring is the perfect season to think about these things, cleaning up your home. And this is also associated with the Chinese medicine calendar. In springtime, we're looking at supporting the organs of liver and gallbladder, which are both very much involved in detox. And so the purpose of our talk today is talking about detoxing your home, cleaning up. I know a lot of us are spending more time at home quarantined, so it's a good time to take a look at what you have. And the next time you buy something, you can use these principles in selecting a better product. All right, so both of us are very passionate about endometriosis. This is not a very well-known condition, even though 1 in 10 women have it. And so the focus of this PowerPoint is to address some of the chemicals that are implicated in this disease, because as you start to remove them from your environment, you can achieve long-term healing from endometriosis. And we've talked about this before, but endometriosis is a disease in which cells in your uterine lining they travel to other parts of your body. And when you're near your period, you experience a hormonal impact of those cells. So it results in chronic debilitating pain. And so the both of us love treating this condition and talking about this condition in a root cause perspective. Some of the treatments available, like surgery, those are very important and effective, but until you've dealt with why it's happening, this condition is likely to grow back. And so our webinars are going to be about how to help with the causes of endometriosis, which include infection, inflammation, trauma, and genetics. So it is possible to clean up your genetics. It's possible to heal from trauma, and cleaning up your environment from environmental exposures is one of the top ways of optimizing your genes. These are some of the chemicals that endometriosis is associated with. So your risk is enhanced of endometriosis if you've been, or your parents have been exposed to chemicals like BPA, dioxins, PCBs. So some of these have now been banned in the United States because of how harsh they are for our human microbiome. But it's still possible to get exposed to them, especially if your parents were exposed to them. PCBs are just completely unnatural and they will hang out in your blood. So how do I help women with this? Is I might start with an environmental exposure assessment if I suspect that exposures to these chemicals is part of why they're having these concerns with hormones. And then we work to identify sources of exposures in their homes and switch these out for better products, as well as help your body with detoxification pathways. So if you've got a functioning liver and kidney, you're able to clear out a lot of the chemicals. So phthalates, they're a group of chemicals that are used to make plastics more flexible and harder to break. So these are often called plasticizers. And women with endometriosis have been found to have higher amounts of these in their blood. So it is important to remove some of these chemicals because we know they mess with your body's ability to respond to your own natural hormones if you're exposed to these plastic endocrine disrupting chemicals. And so common sources of this are found in your bathroom. And I'm going to let April talk about some of the ways to make those changes.
All right, so you guys know I'm a practical girl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a practical guide to go with each room in your house. And I don't want you to get overwhelmed. So we're just going to start with the bathroom. And there's going to be a download link that you can use to download that guide with this presentation. And so we're going to talk about, in general, each room of your house now and kind of where these chemicals hang out and kind of how you can investigate better, where they are. But I don't want you to obsess over taking notes, because I have a guide that will go with this, and you can download it and actually click on the links that will take you to the different areas of product swaps. So let's get started on the bathroom. So in the bathroom, I'll start off, Dr. Soni, a little bit on a few of these products. I'm very familiar with them. So in the bathroom, dioxin is actually something that is a byproduct of usually bleaching products. So you have to look at your toilet paper is one of the first things, because typically toilet paper is bleached and that does have extra dioxin exposure. And since you are coming into contact with that pretty regularly, we want to remove that as a source of chemical exposure for you. Also, menstrual care products, because menstrual care products as well are, if you're doing tampons, are inside of you or they're really close to your skin. And so those are another area that you're going to want to clean up. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there are studies about women having glyphosate exposure through their vagina by having non-organic tampons, for example. So the literature is pretty strong that these are important products to switch out, especially your menstrual care. And so I'm going to give you a bunch of practical swaps from Diva Cup to a brand I like called Naturopath in the guide. So don't worry about that right now. I'll give you the practical tips, but I just want you to be aware of that. Go ahead, Dr. Soni.
So the vagina mucosa is a very highly absorbent place. And so if you're putting anything there, it's more likely to go right into your bloodstream, even more so than if it's going on your skin or if you're eating it. So it is important for anything you use in that area to be organic and natural, because it's going right into your bloodstream.
Yeah, and I think especially with endo, that's why we're starting with the bathroom and these products. These are really important products to switch post-haste versus we'll talk about the other ones. Some of these other ones you can wait till they run out and you can really switch them later. But I'd say your menstrual care products and your toilet paper, if you can, those are things you probably want to switch pretty quickly for the reasons Dr. Soni said about your mucosa absorbing these chemicals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing people may not even consider is dental floss. So unfortunately, and I used to love this until I learned about it, Oral-B Glide has been found to expose anyone using it with higher levels of PFAs. So if you can switch that for a different type of floss, that is a good thing to consider.
So what are PFAs, Dr. Soni, and how do we find a better floss?
Yeah, so PFAs, polyfluoro compounds. So they're another type of plastic that can show up, and it's used to make that Glide floss very smooth. But yes, women who are using this floss, it showed up higher in their blood. So they absorb it very quickly, and they can have a pretty big impact on your health.
Okay, so we can't have Glide, which, like you said, is kind of a bummer because it feels nice, but we want to have more of the rough floss then, because it doesn't have the plasticizers.
That's a good way to know what floss might be okay to use.
Okay, good to know. And then I'll talk a little bit about toothpaste. My sister's a dental hygienist, and we've gone a little deep on this together on finding like the best toothpastes. So once again, this will be linked in the guide, so don't worry about it too much, but you want to look at a toothpaste that doesn't have weird additives. And a lot of them do. Even Tom's is advertised as a really clean one, and I've found weird ingredients in his as well. So there's only a few toothpaste that I actually trust. And so I'll link those in the guide for you guys. But toothpaste is kind of a hard one that most of the companies add things because they want you to be addicted to that fizzy feeling, but that fizzy feeling is not a normal, natural occurrence.
All right, great. And yeah, there are organic versions of nail polish, organic versions of makeup. So it's getting easier and easier to make the switch. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll have an extensive list because I love the makeup swaps. They're fun. So I'll have an extensive list of that in the guide for you guys. If you were on a previous talk with me, you know I like Beauty Counter and 100% Pure. 100% Pure is actually based out of San Francisco. Really great products, all natural, and they work. Like I'm wearing most of their products right now. So I don't even wear non-organic makeup anymore. But at first, I won't lie, that was hard because I looked kind of funny for a while. So their makeups are getting better over time, which is good.
So for example, if you tried an organic eyeliner and you found it was very runny or not as effective, the companies likely changed and updated their product. So it's going to be better if you decide to try it again.
Yeah, they're learning all the time. I'm learning, you know, about them. These companies, they're doing a really good job. There's a mascara that I hated years ago, and I tried it again, and it's much better now, and I use their mascara now. So they are improving all the time. Thank goodness for research on that. Yeah. And then tell us about the shower curtains, Dr. Soni. Why do we need to watch out for the type of shower curtain? How I've heard about off-gassing. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so off-gassing is anytime you're in a new environment, so new house, for example, there's new floors or new curtains, they release chemicals into the air. You breathe them in, and they have a direct impact on your health. So so the type of shower curtain you use is fairly important. If you can switch from some of the vinyl materials to something made from silicone, that is a good idea.
Yeah, and I've read that the plastics, much like when we're going to talk about kitchen in your home, you know, the disposable plastics are the worst because they're usually the least stable. And I've heard that most of the shower curtains made out of plastic are very unstable plastics. And as soon as they're in contact with your hot water, they're actually steaming chemicals into your shower while you're supposed to be having this nice experience. So shower curtains are pretty cheap swap, probably a more urgent one than you realize. And I have found several on Amazon that are either some sort of cotton or a poly blend, which it doesn't off-gas plasticizers in your shower. So.
All right, so we talked about plastics. BPA or BPS are the biggest chemicals implicated in plastics. So BPA, unfortunately, is in plastic children's toys, sports bottles, canned foods. BPS was created so that companies could put BPA free on their label, but BPS is actually worse than BPA because it's found in a shorter period of time in the blood. So for example, BPA or BPS, when it was given to mice, heart function worsened, especially in females, just within minutes of exposure.
Wow.
And endocrine and metabolic pathways are very similar in mice and humans. So it does raise concerns about the safety of replacing BPA with BPS. So it's not enough for you to think that, you know, something with a BPA free label is going to be okay for you, especially for people with heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity. BPS can increase the chances of a heart attack or make heart attacks more severe. And as far as endometriosis goes, there was a study of 68 women, and BPA was assessed in the urine as well as the fluid in the abdomen, which is very important for women with endometriosis, and they did find higher levels of BPA in women with endometriosis. So BPA is something you can check in your urine and see what your exposure is. It's especially important to think about if you're thinking about having a baby. Babies are at the top of the food chain, so they often detox you. Breastfeeding is associated with lower risk of breast cancer, and people think it's because as a baby is taking breast milk from you, they are detoxing you. They're getting these chemicals of BPA, especially for both male and female children. It's going to disrupt their hormone systems. So for women, we're seeing more signs of precocious puberty. So girls having their period at a younger and younger age, or even having heavier periods. And for men, for male children, it can be man boobs that is associated with BPA exposure. Down the road, it can be prostate cancer.
So that's pretty serious. So where are these hiding? And give me a little bit of info on BPS as far as, is it hiding in the same place as BPA, but they're just allowed to say BPA free, or what have you learned about that?
BPS was created when people were trying to go BPA free because they learned about how toxic BPA was. So it's basically a newer chemical that allows people to say BPA free, but actually they're using BPS, which is even worse.
Okay, so are these hiding, I'm going to switch to the next slide. Are these hiding in the same, actually that's not the slide I was looking for. Are these hiding in the same places as BPA? Like, are they in the lining of cans? Where are they hiding?
So they are hiding, like I've seen them most often in those plastic bottles. Essentially, anytime you're using plastic, it's important to be cautious, and that's where BPA specifically will be. And sometimes if you're seeing BPA free, that's when BPS is also involved. But some of the top locations for BPA are receipts. So if you are pregnant, it's important not to touch receipts because the ink on the receipts has a high amount of BPA in it. It does impact your kid. So wearing gloves if you're exposed to these chemicals, or if you work a cash register at work and you're constantly handling receipts, wearing gloves to protect your hands will be important.
Yeah, I've actually read that there's also a high dioxin level in receipts too. So it seems like for women with endo, receipts are just a bad idea. Luckily, I was thinking, we're already moving to a digital footprint on a lot of places where you can say, I just want a digital receipt. So you can pay with your phone and you don't have to even do a physical transaction with the cash register. You just, do an Apple Pay or something like that. So I think that's a good service to use and not touch a receipt, that way. The other thing I've done when I'm at a retailer and they absolutely like force you, like they print it and they like hand it to you and they're like forcing you to take it, is I'll open the bag and I'll just have them put it in there. And then when I get home, I take gloves and I just throw it away immediately. So I'm not coming into contact with it. So you can get creative. The only positive, or one of the only positive things I can think about the Corona outbreak is people don't look at you weird if you wear gloves now to the grocery store. So you can wear them and then you can just take the receipt and throw it away. And no one's going to think you're weird right now. So there's a positive side to that.
I love the practical tips you gave right there.
I've been doing it for a while. I know weird things. Okay, so where are these hiding in our kitchen? Because there's a lot of plastic in the kitchen, unfortunately.
Yeah, so plastic food containers, easy to swap out for glass containers or even silicone containers. Your plastic disposable bags. Anytime you microwave anything with a plastic lid or in a plastic container, that's when you're getting a big dose of BPA. And then again, Teflon pots and pans, the data on them has been around for a while. Hopefully everyone knows not to buy them. And especially if you already have them, avoid getting any scratches because that's when the Teflon is released.
Right, which is why your mom always told you not to use metal on your pans, and she was right, because that would really create a problem. I'm going to give, like I said, a kitchen guide, and the kitchen guide is going to go deep on the plastic food swaps to which containers I use. I'm going to give you guys my favorite disposable bags, which are called stashers, and they're made of silicone, and you reuse them by washing them. And so it's really good for the environment because you're not actually throwing away plastic that's never going to degrade. You're reusing these things. And then also you're not coming into contact with extra plastics when you store your food. So I'm going to send that out. And then also there is my favorite pots and pans. I'm going to create a list of those. I use mostly ceramic, stainless steel, and a little bit of cast iron for certain meals.
I think for women, cast iron is really important. Just the rates of anemia, especially in countries like India, but even in the United States, I see it all the time that someone's iron deficient, especially if they have heavy periods or if they're in a vegan, vegetarian diet. So using a cast iron pan can be really important.
Yeah, and I've noticed, like, to get a little techie on it, like I will use it closer to my period because obviously that's when we really have our most iron deficiency because you lose blood and you get that real bad anemia, or at least if you have the same genes as me, you get real anemic. And so I will try to cook on cast iron, especially around my period, to help get my iron levels up. And it's a tasty experience. So it tastes good to eat on cast iron.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk about dioxins, because this is the one, Dr. Soni, that goes way back in the endo literature. And Mary Lou Baldweg, I'll give her a shout out, over at the Endometriosis Association, is the one who sort of blew the whistle on this when I was younger, before I ever knew I had endo. She was the one who said dioxins and endo have a strong correlation.
Yeah. So dioxins are so bad that they did get banned. There's regulatory controls on them. So the emissions into the air have reduced by 90% compared to back in 1987. But just because they're banned now doesn't mean they're not still in your environment. So today, some of the common places that people are getting exposed to dioxins are food, especially animal products, because it's stored in fat tissues. So it's really important to be getting healthy sources of your animal products, which would be the organic sources. So making sure that the animals that you're consuming, they ate green vegetables and grass. Like those are some basic things that, doesn't really happen in the States. So dioxins, they're a highly toxic compound and they're a byproduct of manufacturing processes, specifically herbicides and paper bleaching. And also, burning trash can release it into the air. So anytime you have a forest fire or a volcano eruption, that's when you're likely to be exposed to more dioxins in the air.
Side note about that, if you guys are going to go camping this year, do not throw your paper disposable products in the fire for that exact reason. That is a huge dioxin releaser. And even if it's not going to hurt you immediately, overall, if we all do that, it's not good for the environment and raises our dioxin level, which we know is tied to endometriosis. So whenever I'm at the campsite, I always collect everything from everyone, even though they get annoyed with me, and I throw it away because I know that I'm doing my part to keep our dioxin levels low. So we can all work on that personally.
Yeah.
And then the bleached paper products, like I said earlier, is the other big source, along with pads and the receipts, which we just talked about, has high levels of dioxins in them as well.
Yes, they can cause developmental problems in children, reproductive and infertility problems for adults. They can cause miscarriages, damage your immune system, interfere with hormones. These are just a few of the ways that they impact women with endometriosis.
Yeah, they're pretty big. All right, so what's hiding in our bedroom?
So, yeah, I think you like the picture of the little
I
pug
do.
there.
I love your pug.
I mean, you have to nurture your inner child here. Like you have to protect the little person in you from some of these chemicals. So making the swaps here are pretty important, especially because it's a place that you sleep. So you spend a third of your life sleeping. So what you're breathing in your bedroom, what you're exposed to in your bedroom, it does matter.
So what are we looking at as far as, obviously, our laundry detergents, because they are going to be coming in contact with our sheets and with our clothes. Dryer sheets, same thing. A lot of chemicals come off those dryer sheets. And I have practical swaps for those in our guide on dryer balls instead. You can get cotton dryer balls to help dry things quicker. But tell us a little bit about the lubricants and spermicides, because that one interests me. What's up with that?
Yeah, those are hormone disrupting for women especially, but essentially they're chemicals that you're putting again in the most absorbent tissue in your body, your vagina. So it's really not a great idea. You can use things like coconut oil as a lubricant instead, even for laundry detergent. Nowadays it's easy to find natural versions, but you can even make laundry detergent yourself with things like a little bit of borax. I know too much of that is also an issue. But soap flakes, like you can make these products yourself.
That's awesome. And with lubricants, there are a few brands I found that I do like that are all natural silicone type of substance, and they feel pretty natural, but they don't have any chemicals or weird binders in them. So there are brands you can buy too if you don't want to just do coconut, because I know coconut oil can get kind of messy, and so I still do have some lubricants I use that aren't quite so messy.
Yeah. And then the fragrances, you can tell when you're using a laundry detergent and it has that really strong chemically scent. I mean, we've kind of been raised thinking that's what clean smells like, but it's time to make the changes. It's time to, let your clothes dry in sunshine if you can, and use some of the natural cleaners, which may not have those strong scents, but they're better for you, especially fragrances. Fragrances are used in the animal kingdom as a means to attract your mates. And so they definitely influence your hormones. So it's especially important if you're someone with endometriosis to use natural fragrances. Aromatherapy has a lot of health benefits, and it's an easy swap here. So you could use essential oils, for example, to make your laundry smell better.
Yeah, and last night I saw a friend of mine, and she does natural dry shampoo, and she smelled amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, what do you smell like? She's like, oh, it's just the essential oils from the products I make myself, type of thing. So that's something that is another fun byproduct of making your own things, is that they smell naturally good, and then you don't need a fragrance because you have a natural fragrance. So I think the fragrances are probably one of the easier swaps thanks to essential oils now. All right, long term, I don't want anyone freaking out because I know this is a big investment, but tell us a little bit about the beds. And because I know this is a big one, we're sleeping most of the time. Our bed is a huge period of time where we're supposed to be cellular detoxing. If there are fire retardants and different types of funky chemicals in our beds, which most beds do have, those are off gassing over time. So tell us about how we would, if we are A, moving right now, or B, ready to upgrade our bed, what do we look for?
Yeah, so fire retardants, why are they in the beds in the first place? And that's because people are trying to prevent the bed catching from fire if the house was on fire, which is important. But unfortunately, I've seen fire retardants even in baby clothes now, and that is not good for babies' hormone productions and future hormone status. So you have options now to pick the more organic products. Beds, typically people switch at least every 10 years, and that's a time to go for the more cleaner, natural products.
Okay. And I have read a few different companies. I haven't done it yet myself. I'm actually going to be doing that soon, switching out my bed. But my mother-in-law actually beat me to that. And my guest bed that I sleep on when I visit her is completely organic and really comfortable. Like, I was skeptical. It's like really comfortable. So, and I sleep like a baby when I'm there. So she's kind of like pushing me to like, okay, it's time to swap out your bed and for a better, more organic option there. So just something to think about. Again, don't go run out about that one, but you know, long-term, you know, if you're ready for one, that's a good option. All right. What are PCBs?
Polychlorinated biphenyls are highly toxic industrial compounds. So they pose health risks to fetuses, babies, children, and they can cause developmental and neurological problems. So they do not exist in the natural world at all. There are no natural sources of it. Their chemical is made, you know, when we're in our when we're creating any of this furniture or other products. So they're made in a factory, and they look like oily liquids or solids. So some can exist as vapor in the air, but they have no known smell or taste. So PCBs, phthalates, and BPA, they do alter genes involved in hormones. So some of those are CYP19A1, EGFR, FOS. So these genes have been implicated in breast tumors, uterine tumor tissues, endometriosis lesions. So these genes are all estrogen responsive and impacted by PCBs.
Okay. And where do we find PCBs mostly?
So they've been used as coolants and lubricants in transformers, capacitors, and other electrical equipment because they don't burn easily, and they're good insulators. The manufacture was officially stopped in the US because of the environment that they build up in the environment and cause harmful health effects. But basically, products made before 1977 are more likely to have PCBs. So that could be your old fluorescent lighting fixtures or electrical devices, oils, and microscopes.
Okay. So a little more rare probably for women to come into contact with that every day per se. But if it sounds like if they're involved in one of those industrial type jobs or a job that might come into contact with it, that they need to be aware of it.
Honestly, just living in the city, because this is in the air, and
Oh, really?
you think it's rare and it's banned, but it's possible to test women for it in urine and even blood, and it is showing up currently.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay. So what
light.
are they can't really do a whole lot about that then themselves. It's more just like be tested and then detox from it if it shows up. Is that the protocol?
Yeah. Also dig in with someone and see if there's something in your environment that's exposing you to it.
Okay. Good to know. Okay. What hangs out in our living rooms?
Yeah. So again, I'm going to repeat plastic toys, because, especially an issue with children because they chew and they're constantly teething. So they're always putting in their mouth. They're breaking down the plastic,
Yeah.
absorbing even more. So please get rid of that in your living room. And then you mentioned off-gassing. So that's a way to be exposed to PCBs. Anything that's new, a new product that releases off gases. So in certain situations, having those older used products can be better. Yeah.
Okay. And then again, sofas and furniture can be a place where fire retardants and those types of things are hiding as well.
Yes.
I was going to say with the fireplace, what I meant by that is the fireplace is actually a known place of dioxin because you're burning things you're burning them, and dioxin is really high concentration in smoke. So with fireplaces, it's not like don't have a fireplace, but if you have one, make sure that it's not leaking out or that it's not sealed properly. So if it's ventilated properly, you shouldn't be getting any smoke or any sort of residue in your house. There is ways to test for that if you end up wanting to go really nerdy on that. I have done that and tested my fireplace in my house, and I know it doesn't, give any contamination to my air quality. Another thing you can do, which we're going to talk about in the whole house detox part, is if you know that you're running it a lot in the winter, to have some sort of an air filter in that room that is also helping filter out anything. So you're not filtering it through your lungs. As we talked about, dioxin is big with forest fires. So here in California, especially the last 2 years, it's been a nightmare. I've been running house air filters like mad through October and November because we had such bad air contamination from those fires. So those are sources of dioxin I just wanted to bring up as well.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, heavy metals, this is a big one.
Yeah, and just like you mentioned, forest fires, when they come around, that's also when heavy metals are released into your air, and air ends up being a big source of heavy metals. So things like lead, cadmium, even smoking, that's a big source of heavy metals. They will show up in your blood and urine, and they have impact to cardiovascular, immune, you name it.
Yeah, and I'll just say right now, it's not judgment, ladies, but if you're a smoker, it's a good time to quit because there's way too many things you're getting exposed to on top of everything else we're just saying from smoking. So that's just a side misnomer. Good time to quit.
Yeah, we have enough environmental exposures without adding smoking to the list. And it is possible, actually, even in about 5 years, to get rid of some of the effects to your body. So if you quit now, you can make a significant impact to your health. It matters. It's not like thinking like, okay, I'm 1 year down the road, I'll think about it 2 years down the road. No, if you quit now, it will have profound impacts to your health now.
Yeah, and I know that, like what you said about birth control too, your body's really amazing. So within a certain number of years, your body can return to a normal, like that didn't happen to a certain degree. But it takes time for it to detox and calibrate and really get back to normal. So it's a good time to stop now so that you can be really happy that you did several years from now and your body has recalibrated.
So another big heavy metal is mercury. And so that is in those amalgam fillings of the teeth, and also it's in tuna. And it is possible to test it in blood. It's possible to test it in urine. It's possible to test it in stool. The right doctor is going to show you for testing if it's indicated. It can have neurological effects. But in general, don't eat tuna.
Right. And that's what I heard from, I'm a big Alice in Wonderland fan. So that's where the Mad Hatter comes from, right? Is they would use mercury in the hats and these hatters would go crazy. And so that's actually where this comes from, is from mercury poisoning. So just something to keep in mind if even a family member, as people age, sometimes they think, oh, they're just old. And some of them have serious metal exposure. And once it's cleaned up, their neurological effects stop. So mercury is no joke, and it's something to definitely address. As far as I want to say for myself, I had no choice when I was a kid. I had really bad dentists and they put a bunch of mercury amalgam fillings in my mouth, which was just delightful. So it's a process to get them out, and I'm not done because I have so many. So I've done so many teeth and I have more to go. So just keep in mind that you want to work with a special dentist who actually understands how to remove those safely without re-exposing you to more mercury in the process. And I really don't agree with the take them all out at the same time because of the exposure that you can get. So I slowly am like removing those from my mouth. So just wanted to get a side note on the mercury amalgam thing.
That's the best way to do it. They do, the amalgam fillings do expand in your teeth and can cause teeth to crack. So even in the process of extraction, some people do have injury. So I love what you said about doing it slowly. That's when when you're removing it is when it's getting mobilized in your mouth. So seeking a safe dentist is important. And I have a nice resource for you to be able to look up holistic dentists that we can share.
Yes, let's share that because they're actually hard to come by. So we want to give access to them for sure. Anything else about heavy metals before I go to the next slide?
I think that's it.
Okay, so let's talk about the whole home. And these are more like long-term or like big picture things. So what are we looking at?
Yeah, you're looking at flooring, paint. So again, if you are in the preconception or if you're pregnant, that's really not the time for you to be doing anything construction related in your house. I know a lot of women get into nesting and moving homes, but you do need to protect yourself from exposures involved in construction during that time. Mold that you have listed, that's a big one. And that's a current thing. Like until you get that out of your environment, you're not going to feel better. So yes, everyone reacts differently to mold exposures, and some of that can have to do with how healthy your liver is. But it is something that if it's in your environment, you need to take it out. It's very easy to test for mold in your environment as well as your personal exposure to mold.
Yeah, and I did mention that in the group this week that mold and viruses work together. Do you want to talk about that just briefly? I want to nerd out a little bit on that because I want women to know why the mold needs to be removed and why they need to be a sleuth. So in the kitchen guide, I'm going to tell you how to look for mold in your bathroom and your kitchen, because that's normally where water is, exposed. But I've heard stories of women having floods and the flood department said it's fine and they're living with mold in rooms like under the flooring and whatnot. And I kind of freak out. So tell us why that's so important.
Yeah, any like mold, viruses, other types of infections, they alter your immune system, and endometriosis is an immune condition. So the hormones in your body, estrogen, progesterone, they all have good, important roles. Estrogen is involved with infection and inflammation. It goes to sites of infection and inflammation. So if you're someone who is exposed to greater sites of greater infection inflammation, it's going to run around your body. And that could be part of why the endometriosis has spread as much as it has in the first place. So identifying any sources of infection, inflammation, and taking that out is really important.
And mold and bacteria actually, like, they help each other out as far as, I mean, not bacteria, viruses and mold, they're like a symbiotic relationship. So what I found out is, like, a lot of times women had mold exposure and that's when they had a Lyme or an Epstein-Barr flare, was because that weakened them and left room for that virus to invade. So it seems like they work well together. And on the opposite, we want your bacteria in your cells to work stronger in your mitochondria. So you have to get those out of your world so that you can stop that vicious cycle.
Yeah, mitochondria are a big topic. So mitochondria are passed from mother to daughter. So again, an important women's health piece. And they're the top things that viruses hide in. Mitochondria are the powerhouses of your cell. That's where energy is produced. So if you're feeling tired, it can be related to mitochondrial function. It's very easy to support mitochondrial health and function. Certain nutrients like CoQ10 can help with that, but also treating the cause of the issues, which is getting rid of mold and viruses, is going to be helpful.
Yeah, I always show my girls my little mighty mitochondria. That's my little guy. That reminds me of, like, why you don't want to have mold in your world if you can help it. So that's mold. Let's talk about the air filters, because I already said fire season, but what can they do to, like I was talking about the air filters, what can they do to filter air out of their home when they're concerned about that?
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a air filter in your home, especially when you're living in the city, and just the exposure to off gases from your sofas, for example, your carpets. Um, Air filters are really important. So what can you do? You can find a good air filter and add it into your house. Especially, I would say, consider your bedroom, since you're spending a lot of time sleeping there. That would be a good place for it.
Yeah, during the fire season, that's where I focused all my efforts, as I sort of was like, well, I know while I'm sleeping, I really need a detox. So I made sure that that room was filtered before I went to bed. And even though I don't normally like having, some people like having fans on while they sleep, I don't. I still kept it on while I slept because I know I needed it to filter out the air quality while I was sleeping. Because that October last year here in California was like living in the apocalypse. It was insane. It was like you could see the smoke layer outside. So it was pretty bad.
Yeah, so we have it for chunks of time, but I will say, like, I was born in New Delhi, India, and now it's like every November the air pollution is so thick, you can see it, and it causes all kinds of concerns. So especially around the world, air filters are something to think about if you live in a dense city environment.
Okay, that's a good point, because we have a lot of girls actually from different countries now in the group as well. So depending on where you live, check into your air quality. I actually do have an app on my phone, which I don't know if it's available across the world. Hopefully it is, that you can download, and it will assess and tell you what the air quality is in your region at that moment. And it kind of gives me a range of if I should be, actively filtering, or if it's not such a bad day. If it's a 0 day, I don't need to filter at all and just open your windows and let fresh air in. So.
Yeah, so it's more common now to be wearing masks, and it was always a common thing in Asia because of the air quality. So the importance of filtering out heavy metals.
Yes. Okay. Is there any other I don't think I talked about flooring too much. So flooring is more like, we just don't want carpets because of the off-gassing, and they also hold a lot of allergens, right? So they're holding a lot of stuff in
Dust
them.
mites, for example, very common allergen. So if you have allergies, yeah, considering your flooring, getting your carpet steam cleaned, this is a good time of year to do that.
You know what else I forgot to mention? The dust mites too. They happen naturally. And when I got tested, I have a pretty severe dust mite allergy for myself. And so this time of year is hard because it's sort of like you have dust, you have pollen, and you have grasses. And if you're allergic to a few of those things, you're having serious allergy symptoms. And so I wash my sheets even more often than I normally do this time of year to keep all of my dust mites, allergens, or anything that's collecting on the sheets clean. So that's just something else to consider, is make sure that if you aren't regularly washing your sheets, do, because it kills dust mites. And then right now, if you're having a lot of allergies, wash them a little bit more to really clean everything out.
Yeah, that's great. And when we talk about detoxing your home and liver support, so inflamed liver has been associated with more allergy symptoms. So it is possible to support your liver gallbladder with hormones and see your allergy symptoms improve. But other than that, things like vitamin C, quercetin, so found in your fruits, as well as the omega-3s, fatty fish, those will be helpful for allergies. Vitamin D, all of this will help you treat allergies at the root cause.
Yes, and that's what we want to do. And I do love my vitamin D. It's one of my favorite things.
Good.
All right, so where can they ask us questions if they have questions after all of this?
Yeah, so both of us are active online, so we love your questions and we use it to decide what our next webinars will be. So if you have any questions, send them over. I know last time you did a whole Instagram live answering questions, so we do take them seriously. I practice in California, and you can see me virtually from virtually anywhere in the world. But if you need an in-person appointment, that's where I am. And I love helping women heal from endometriosis and all types of hormone conditions at the root.
And so you're available on Instagram at the Endo Doc, right?
Yes.
And then you are available at drsoni.com, as well as they can just call you, right, to schedule an appointment? Call your office. Okay. And then I'm available on the support group. I started the Facebook support group Beyond Endo for women who are searching for natural and alternative treatments, as well as just good endo education. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I'm trying to correct that one day at a time. So join us over on Facebook at Beyond Endo and be part of our community, where we go live and we talk about these types of little tips and tricks and things you can do to clean up your life. And then you can follow me at beyond.endo, where I post little things, tips, tricks, and this week I posted a rant about high fructose corn syrup. So you never know what I'm going to talk about, but it's pretty much whatever I'm feeling is important at the moment. So that's where you can find me.
Yeah, so this is us incrementally giving you the data you need to start making these lifestyle changes. Again, I believe women with endometriosis change the world because they shift their communities. They're the ones eating healthy, advocating, changing the world around them, healing both themselves and our environment. So thank you to all the ladies with endometriosis, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Yep, we're here for you. So just know you're not alone, and there are good solutions out there, and we know a lot of weird, cool things. So just reach out to us, and we're happy to get you to the right places to get your answers.
Bye.
Okay. All right. Bye.